We're live, 7:04. Hopefully everybody's doing well. Earlier today, I put up a video, part 3, the final installment, I promise, of the big block shootout. So we had a 461-inch big block and a 496-inch big block, and then we did the following comparisons in this video. NA versus NA. Not really a fair comparison. One of them's a lot bigger, better head, bigger camshaft, all that stuff, although it did have lower compression. So we threw the smaller motor a bone in the form of the 174 blower or 177. It's one of those. So run with 5 pounds of boost or so. The smaller motor now made just a little bit more power than the bigger motor did NA. We can look at that a different way, and that's actually the way that I looked at it. It's not really surprising that even a 461, fairly mild one with a 203 cam, but when we add boost to it, as always, good things happen. I was happy when we stepped up to the 496, even though we did put low compression in. I was happy that that combination made nearly the power output of the earlier smaller combination with the blower, because we got 577 horsepower, so we're close in peak power. The boosted combination made a good bit more torque, but we were close. And like I said, it was 8.2 to 1. If it was 10.2 to 1, the thing would have been way over 600 horsepower. It would have been a good combination. I think that the Canfield heads could easily support that power level, but it was a good combination. Obviously, even better things happened when we put the bigger blower on both of them. So we put the 420 mega blower on there, and we ran the 461 with the mega blower, and then we ran the 496 with the mega blower at different boost levels, different pulleys. What that allowed me to do is using the data, using the data from the 461 with the blower, we were able to run the 496 with the same pulley. Then also, and there's a reason I did this, we were also able to match the boost on the 496 that we got on the previous test with the 461. And the reason that I did that is even before I started doing YouTube, we would get letters from the magazine tests. If I did a comparison where I ran, the same blower run on 2 different motors, people would want to see it one of 2 ways. Actually, that's not true. They'd want to see it both ways, and that's why I did this. If we ran the same pulley on the blower on both the combinations, one of them would have less boost than the other, but the blower is spinning the same speed. So that's a good test. The other way to do that is when we put the blower with the same pulley on the bigger motor, the boost is going to come down. Well, they need to be the same boost. Okay. That's another way to look at it. Let's not match the pulley size. Let's match the boost. The problem with that is that in order to do that, we're spinning the blower faster. If we spin the blower faster on either one of the motors, they're going to make more power, because that's what happens. When you spin the blower faster, it processes more air, supplies more air to the motor, makes more power. The other problem comes when we're trying to duplicate the boost level. We cannot match the boost curves of both of those combinations using the same blower. It's not going to do that. We have dramatically different power outputs NA, different camshafts, different cylinder heads, and so in different displacements. So the boost curve supplied by that blower, regardless of what pulley size we change it to, is going to be different. So all I could do is match some given point. Okay, look, at 5,500 RPM, they both made 6.2 pounds of boost. That's as close as I can get. So then now we're measuring at the same boost. But if I only did one, somebody would ask for the other. If I just did that one, they would ask for the previous one. So the only way to get around that is to provide both. And I did that. And as you can guess, when we kept the pulley sizes the same, the bigger motor, it made more power NA. It also made more power under boost. And it even made more power at the reduced boost level because we kept the pulley ratio the same. Once we made the boost the same, then all bets were off. Then it made a lot more power. And that's what happens. I think ultimately at this 800 horsepower level, which we did on the 496 with the 420 mega blower, we would start be creeping into, we're going to start getting diminishing gains as we keep changing pulleys and going up in boost. I don't know how much power that particular blower will support. I don't know if it's equivalent to a 671. I don't think that it is. I don't think it would make as much as a 671. But it's already at 800, and we were at 800 at 7 pounds, and actually only 6.8 pounds when I had a little bit less pulley in it on the blower, on the crank side, but we ran more RPM. So at 6,500, we could make over 800 horsepower. And you can see that in part 2 of the videos and see. So we did NA versus NA, boosted smaller motor versus NA big motor, pulley versus pulley with a 420 mega blower on both, and then boost versus boost, 420 mega blower on both. Lots of data there. So for all you data people, go nuts. It's good stuff. So okay, goal for tonight. Would you rather have a smaller motor with more boost or a bigger motor with less boost? And go. That used to drive me nuts when people do that. So we'll see how people are doing. Peeps, Squirrels, James, Mad, Alan. Now, Richard, you're just reading up names. Tim, what's up? See, Tim, stop by, hit the thumbs up. Hopefully he brought pizza. Hook me up. Kevin, what things I missed it? Oh, things I missed being in the hospital. Okay. It's all there forever. You can always go back to it, man. I'm glad you're out. What is everything okay? Tim, I called comp cams today for recommendation for a stock bottom end 351 Windsor cam for my turbo Fox body, and walked away with more questions than answers. And you haven't got that answer here already? They'd like to know more information than I can conjure up. You really don't need that much information to select a cam for a turbo 351. It should say than rather than or, but would you rather have the smaller motor with higher boost? So you can answer that accordingly. I can redo the question if it's too confusing. All you have to do is replace the word than for or. Uh-oh, Kevin, that's not good. The poll question is kind of correct. Correct-esque. Butcher, it could be that actually the question serves for any engine family, because in the case of would you rather have a 2.2 or a 2.4? 2.2 with more boost or a 2.4 with less boost. Obviously, people are getting upset. Oh, okay. So I will rephrase it so that we can make it easier for everybody. This should spell it out fairly clearly. And we're off. I stand by my decision. Big with a little less boost. The more it breaks. There's a discussion that could be had there. I mean, if you have to turn the boost up higher, is the turbo sized correctly on the map to run that pressure ratio? Also, as we go up in boost, we go up in temperature. Not a great thing. 2003 comp told me to ditch my 274 cam for a single pattern 228 cam. Well, a 228 would be bigger. And I'd have to test it to see. A single pattern cam for a turbo might spool it up more, but I don't agree with that. Francisco, greetings. So right now, how's our poll doing now? How do you like me now? So more people are big motors with less boost. Obviously, the answer is a big motor, more boost is the ultimate answer, but we're not talking about that. So have you guys watched the video? Any surprises? I'll tell you what surprised me was that we didn't see more of a change in power once we added the boost. That generally manifests itself more with turbo combinations because sometimes the blower can be limiting. And I talked a little bit about that when we ran the two with the same pulley size, because when you run them with the same pulley size, the boost goes down, the airflow goes up, but you're still, and the percentage increase from doing that is not great, but it's some. But ultimately, you're spinning that blower, a certain number of RPMs, and it's going to supply a certain amount of airflow. It has come up a little bit because there's less pressure underneath it. So the flow rate through the blower has increased some. Not as much as it does when you spin the blower faster, though. Greetings from northern Alabama. Is that where that is? Cool. Greetings. Edward, you didn't have the Richard Wisdom back in 2003. Richard didn't have all the Richard Wisdom back in 2003 either. But I definitely still would have gone with a 274 cam because it was one that even in 2003 that I'd already tested 30 times. Bigger motor with all the boost. And again, it would still, as always, depend on what is your goal? What are you trying to achieve? Is this a street car, just a 10 pounds of boost daily driver so you can spin the tires? Is it you're trying to reach 1,000 horsepower or 700 or 200 or whatever the number is? What is the goal? Never watched one of these live feeds. It's neat to see you interact with people. That's why you're here, man. That's why we have the Q&A. I usually talk about something in the beginning. In this case, it was the other video. It usually be some kind of subject. And I'm also going to do and I'll let you guys know, but obviously I'm going to be doing a 24-hour marathon coming up here before too long. My 408 will have a nice split pattern cam. Yeah, that's probably a good idea. An LS2, my goal is a 1972 with an LS. That's good. An LS2 with a single turbo, that's good. LS2s are hard to find, but even an iron 6-liter is good. The issue is once a goal is achieved, the new goal starts. It becomes the new norm. That's how boost is, and that's why all of us have so many problems. Is that I'm never going to run more than 10 pounds. Oh, okay. You're never going to run more than 10 pounds until you run 10 pounds for 3 or 4 weeks or 3 or 4 days. The threshold point for lots of people is different. So, but what will happen is it will become the new norm. You know, it's like when we go exercise. You go out and run. You're like, okay, I ran a mile. I barely made it. And then after a week or 2 weeks or however long it is, you go run a mile. You're like, this is nothing. I need to go farther than that. And boost is like that. You have your thing set at 7 pounds. You're like, man, this is really good. I love this. This is awesome. It's so much better having a turbo motor than an NA motor. This is awesome. And then you're driving around for a long time. You're like, I don't know, 7 pounds. It just doesn't feel like 7 pounds anymore. No, it actually still does. It feels exactly like 7 pounds. It's just that you're used to it. And it'd be really good? 10 pounds. Yeah, no, 10 pounds. 10 pounds is the new 7 pounds. And then so on and so on and so on. And that's what happens. I'm beyond excited for the marathon. Me too. I got to work out for it though. I got to prep for it. James, $5 a month. That would be awesome. Still debating between an Audi 5 and a cam heads for LS3 for my 944 turbo. Put a 5.7 in the 964. Bummed about the lack of higher PMC. Yeah. So do you have a good intake manifold on it? Is it a 5.7 LS1 base motor? You should be able to zing that up pretty good. With a 232 cam, should have enough RPM with a short runner intake manifold. You need that 4.8 crank in there though, man. Trying to decide between an LS2 and LQ4. If you have both of them, then I would pick the aluminum one. But if you don't have both of them and you're going to buy one of them, I definitely would opt for a 6-liter truck motor because it'll be, half or a third or a tenth of the price. Yeah, Admiral, that's right. Shift rev limiters can be like that too. I'd rather have a K24 14 pounds instead of a 1.6 at 30 pounds. I agree with that. My Spirit is pretty much making the same boost as last year, just better parts all the way around. Well, and that's the other thing that you can do is, and this video showed it like so many have in the past, is that even if you run the same boost, you run 7 pounds, and if your motor is bigger and has better heads and better camshaft and stuff, better intake manifold, you can make a lot more power that same 7 pounds. Richard, did you see American Ninja is coming back? I actually haven't watched American Ninja Warrior in a while. I still follow some of the guys, but I haven't watched it in a while. I didn't know how long it could keep being a viable TV show because people tend to get bored with stuff. It was a really fun deal for me. I plan on a bare block build, but measurements and tolerances scare me as a non-LS builder, just a guy who knows a bit about mechanics. I would recommend you get a wrecking yard motor and do that. That's how I killed L98 nitrous addiction. That does it too. 75 shot. Nah, it's got to be 125 shot is really good. Then a 150 and a 200 and then a 250 and so on. Edward, so total petrol head. You have to caveat this other statement by saying that we don't care. And then you picked up a used Tesla Plaid. Those are cool. They're amazingly capable. They do accelerate. There's something to be said for immediate torque. So I should drop in a 4-inch stroker crank and stock bore my aluminum 5.3. Do you want a bigger motor? Okay, but it's going in a 1972 Caprice. What about those aluminum pistons? What aluminum pistons? Every piston that you put in there is going to be aluminum. I am still on Top Chat. 7800, you're not going to be making power at 7800 on a 416 with a 240 cam in it. A 5.3 with boost is going to be make way more power than a 416. An LQ4 will go to well into 4-digit power levels with the turbo, so you don't have to worry about that. You can make all the power that you could possibly use. You shouldn't change to a hyper-eutectic piston. You should leave the stock piston in there. You should leave the stock piston in there. You should put ring gap on it, and you should add a turbo and a camshaft and springs to it. Looking forward to seeing what a LV3 will do with a GT45. You could put forged pistons in it, but you don't need to run boost on an LS. Talking about my turbo LP4 on 10 pounds, I'm always wondering how much different it will act when I have an 8.1 in it with 10 pounds. An 8.1 with 10 pounds would have a lot of torque. Are you ever, with your turbo LQ4, are you ever at a lack of torque though? Big bore, short stroke, and a lot of boost for a stick shift car. I think the bore and stroke are not relevant to that. Yeah, a 416 is going to be somewhere between 600 and 700 horsepower, depending on how much effort you put into it. A 416. I mean, obviously, you could make more than that. You could go nuts with it, but you can never go the kind of nuts that you can with a turbo 5.3. A turbo 5.3 with a cam and springs in it and any kind of turbo is going to be hundreds of horsepower more than a 416. LSD, if you have an LQ4, you don't need a forged crank. That would be the last thing that I would buy. You don't need a different block. The stock block, stock crank, stock rods, stock pistons with ring gap will make 600 or 700 horsepower all day long. £34 injectors isn't going to make very much power on E85. K20 versus K24, real world difference with a roots blower for road racing? I wouldn't pick a roots blower for road racing. Especially if you're, I mean, how many laps are you doing? I definitely would pick something else. Yeah, LSD, it's a way easier way to, I mean, you can put all the forged stuff in it that you want, but it doesn't really need to do it. There are lots of guys out there running pass after pass after pass with a stock bottom end stuff. As long as the tune is right and you have ring gap in it, that bottom end will take a lot of power. I mean, we've made on an LQ4, we made 1482. So what injectors do I run? The injectors that I select would be based on the power output that I'm trying to feed. We have 80s. We normally put them on everything just because they're there and we know that they'll satisfy almost everything that we do until we go to, 4-digit power level stuff. Then we put something bigger in. I have some Snake Eater 1500s, and then we have some Hollies, I don't know, 120s and 160s and stuff. Bruce, twin GT35s will support, I don't know, 1,000, maybe 1,100 flywheel horsepower. LSD, the nice thing about, I don't know what kind of power that you want to make. If you give me an idea of power, I can tell you what you need. A stock 6-liter with a cam and springs is pretty easily a 500 horsepower NA motor with a stock intake manifold, all that stuff. Then when you add boost to that, you just multiply it. So even at 10 pounds on a cammed but otherwise stock with springs and ring gap, you're talking about a lot of power. The 80s, everybody uses their Deca injectors. I feel like a roots blower would be awesome for road racing if it weren't for heat. That's part of the problem. Edward, we run 1,500 cc injectors on 4/8, so 100 pounders on a 6.7 liter V8 is fine. A K20 versus a K24 for like a street car is there's no choice there. A K24 is better in every way. It makes a lot more torque. It doesn't have to rev as high. It's a better way to go, in my opinion. Aren't there good intercooler options that mount under the blower? On what kind of blower are you talking about? I don't know what blower. Is this a blower option for the K-Series Honda? If I can't find a complete LQ4, should I just order a block? I wouldn't put it together that way. It's going to be a lot more expensive. You need to just find a complete motor somewhere that's all from a wrecking yard that's all done. It's going to be way less expensive to do that than it is to try to piece something together. And when you piece something together, you don't know if all those parts are working. If if it was a running motor to begin with, it's going to be right. Oh, people's passive aggressive stuff is funny. I've noticed most Mercedes V8s have max torque starting at mid 2000 RPM and on. Any way to achieve this with an LM7? I would like you to show me where a Mercedes-Benz engine makes peak torque at 2000 RPM. Usually their goal is to have some sort of percentage of the peak torque through a given RPM range for an OEM factory deal. And it's not unusual for them to want lots of torque down low, especially if it's a boosted one. If it's a boosted one, they've ramped in all the boost at the beginning of the curve. But I'd like to see that. I'm curious. Decap truck injectors will go a long way. It's just hard to get them all balanced and for them to keep working right. But I build a long travel streetcar, closed cab with AC. Maybe the intercooler I saw was custom or something. Well, they have sandwich intercoolers for stuff, and a lot of the blower stuff, like the Kenny Bells and Magnusons and those, have some sort of air to water intercooler brick. That becomes less effective for lots of laps. I mean, it's going to be problematic for the thing to like recover, I would think. A turbo with an air-to-air intercooler, or even a centrifugal blower or something with an air-to-air intercooler, would be my choice for something where you're out running for 30 or 40 or 50 minutes at a time. If you're doing one lap, then an air-to-water would work fine. CT Engineering has a good supercharger. Is the supercharger a roots blower, or is it a like a Rotrex one, like a centrifugal? The ring gap is 6.5 thousandths per inch of bore. Any hope for FE content? I'd like to. I just don't have one of those motors. I might have access to one. I'm not sure if you can answer this, but it's safe for me to run the stock old wiring. There's no way to answer that. I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it. I don't know what kind of shape it's in. I don't know how much of that is going to hook up to a fuel-injected motor anyway, unless you're running this carbureted. The 7875 Gen 2 is going to be near 1,000 horsepower. Mercedes often use throttle. and cam phasing to produce a flat torque curve starting at low revs. So what are they doing to the throttle? Are they reducing throttle in the mid-range or something? Because throttle angle shouldn't play a part in torque production down low. How's our poll doing? 71% saying, no, everybody wants the bigger motor. Now I will go to live chat, switch over to live. Although I haven't seen a lot of stuff that I missed switching over to those things. Welcome to live chat. How can I help you? I have run roots blowers on Hondas. We've run them, the old Jackson Racing stuff, on B series and D series. He had some Prelude stuff too, but I never had a Prelude motor, so I never ran one of those. I mean, I drove one that he had there, but I've never raced it. I also had one on one of those roots blowers on my Focus too, but those were all non-intercooled. I ended up putting ERL, I think back then, water injection on them, especially on the Honda, because we were trying to go 150 miles an hour with it. Off a camper van with a Windsor. Can't find a long travel van. It's got to be all-wheel drive though, right? Any 6.8 V10 testing coming up? Bart reached out to me and might be bringing that motor out to West Tech. So we'll see. Why are dual in, single out intercoolers so hard to find? The one that we use for the Big Bang stuff is like that. I chose a smaller motor with more boost because I assume you meant under 400 cubic inches is small. It's relative. Like I said, could be Honda. The small one could be a 2-liter or a 1.6. A 1.6 versus a 1.8, depending if you're a B series guy, or a 2-liter versus 2.4 if you're a K series guy. All of that. 2.2 versus 2.5 for the Omni guys. Ford V10 Mustang, 600 cc's if you're a bike guy. That's right. 600 versus a liter bike, I guess. That'd be a big change. See, 1,000 cc's. How do you find in vet machine shops when you have to try it? You can, talk to other car guys if you moved into a new state or whatever. You can talk to other car guys to find out if there's any information on them. You could go in and talk to them and look at some of their work. More displacement, more compression, and less boost. More fun to drive. Playing with things like cam timing and intake tuning can have a big effect. If your intake is somehow adjustable, if the runner length is or the plenum volume is, and variable cam timing obviously can have an effect on that. LSD, like I said, the first thing you should do is go look up all the videos that I have on building 6-liter stuff. So there's lots of data and combinations to make the kind of power that you want. But you'll need some kind of cam. There's literally hundreds of camshafts that will do what you want them to do. Don't be worried about getting a turbo cam if you're making a turbo combination because they're all turbo cams. You want a Smackledorf? I wouldn't mind seeing a twin turbo 4-liter V4. It's pretty rare. Worked on a Jeep recently that had some adjustable intake, a flap that basically changed the port size. Was it like the Emmerich plates on the Fords where they're cutting off part of the port? That works. It's not ideal. Some 4-valve stuff too, and Ford has done this too, where they close half of the, it's like a dual port, they close half of that. Other guys, Toyota and stuff, have done that as well. It's cool, like the Mazda, what is it, the 787, the Le Mans car, where you could telescope the trumpet length. That's a big change in power when you do that. You can also have dual plenums with a flap in between them and then change the plenum volume. That works to some extent. No, just a restriction. Somebody showed us, steered me in the direction of the thing that they put on the little plate that they put on for the Grand National stuff to get even airflow distribution. Looks like a restriction to me, but yeah, LSD, we're here every night. Just chatting it up. Where's our poll? 70% saying no, so 70-30 in favor of the bigger motor. GW2. There's a lot of numbers. I looked some stuff up last night on those plates, and I saw some stuff, but not the data that I want, though. One of the best channels on YouTube. If you're talking about this channel, I appreciate that very much. I would argue with you. There's lots of good channels on YouTube. Yeah, no information on how it was tested. That's the thing. I see I see the discussion about it, and I see that when somebody tries to question it, that they get shut down immediately by, I don't know, presumably the people that sell it or moderators who maybe like it and have worked with it and maybe had success with it. I don't see, given if it goes where I think it does, and it is in restricting the airflow the way that I think it is. I'm not a Grand National expert, so I haven't taken these apart very much, or at all, rather, very much at all. It sure looks like, even if it does improve the distribution, it's going to do that to the detriment of flow. So, you know, there's that. Vizard's good stuff too. I haven't done any hot V engines. How can I do an intercooler on a draw through? Well, you're kind of getting intercooling through the fuel, but I don't know. I don't know how you could do that without fuel puddling on the, on the hot side of the intercooler. Yeah, Vizard has some amazing stuff. So everybody, most of the guys here know who he is. If you haven't, please go over and watch David Vizard if you're interested in porting. And he's got a lot of history in this stuff. Admiral found a way to run dual cooling fans, AC shutoff, boost control, and nitrous, all of a Terminator X ECU with a Ford 5-liter style IAC. Nice. Darren Morgan knows a lot. has done a lot. So he would be a good guy to talk to. I'd actually like to sit. I don't think I have the history of an experience with the big block stuff the way that Brule does. He's a huge big block fan and knows more about what Darren Morgan has done and stuff. So I'd really like to see a discussion between those two guys, or maybe Jeff Smith. Jeff goes back too. So yeah, it's important to share the knowledge. I get people that, when people don't want to talk about their whatever their top secret cam profile is or whatever. If you've got a pro stock motor and you don't want to talk about that, I get that. But like the average guy out here drag racing, I don't know. That's just, I'd rather have more information out in the world than less. But it's a double-edged sword. The more information also has to be, hopefully it's good information. Because there's a lot of not good information, not just on YouTube, but everywhere. So I'm going to go ahead and close out our poll at 71% saying no. So obviously, guys like the bigger motors, like to go big. Going to be got 3 minutes and 15 seconds left. Shutting down a little early tonight. Just a little bit. So did you guys all watch the big block comparison video with all the data, with all the dyno data? I did test a lot of stuff on those motors. In fact, that 496, we ran a lot of other stuff after. The Canfield heads weren't the last things I run. Dogs were chewing on my glasses. Oh, that's the other thing I was going to talk about today is we had excitement this morning. So the front door was open, and I walked around the corner to find the front door open, and the puppies were gone. So that was what we woke up to this morning. Well, not woke up to, we were already up, but they don't know anything about cars or crossing streets or how to get back home or any of that. So they took off. And so it was this mad scramble to get in our cars and race around the neighborhood like crazy people. And so there was a lot of worry for quite a while. As a puppy escape. Yes. And so, we're thinking the worst because when they get out, and we live in a residential area where there's not a lot of traffic where we are, but where we take them for walks, there's lots of traffic. And so we're worried that they're going to get hit by a car and stuff. So, but we did find them. Somebody had not grabbed them, like kidnapped, like dognapped, not like Cruella DeVille. Somebody nice had grabbed them, and Lisa put some stuff up on Facebook and was driving around, and somebody asked her, "You guys looking?" Because he brought them in his house, and then he was looking for somebody looking for dogs, and that was myself and my wife and my son driving around like crazy people, looking at the parks and all the places that we go, and some places we wouldn't, and what if they went over here? And so it was exciting. What would it take for you to find and test a BMW V8 engine? The difficulty is the motor wouldn't be hard to find. I've seen BMW V8 engines in the wrecking yard. It's a very difficult and expensive procedure and time-consuming procedure to get them running on the dyno. They have to be able to. We have to have some sort of bell housing to make that work. The bell housing has to bolt to the dyno and work with the existing output shafts and center spacing. We have to have the right kind of harness to run that, the right kind of ECU. It's a lot to get a different motor that we don't normally run up on the dyno and get it running. and it's time and money and expense. Toyota V8 and Nissan V8, all of the different V8s are all the same. They're all difficult, not impossible, but I have enough other motors to run that can be put up there that I haven't run yet. The 2.2 Dodge was a good example of that. Spent a lot of time and energy making it work when the reality is it's just called Mr. Reeves, the legend in the 2.2 community. He already had an adapter. Then it just like we threw it up there and it went on. So sometimes those things are a little easier, but not always. And so the same thing with the 4200. There was already an adapter from our friends up in Canada that allowed it to bolt to a big small block Chevy. I want to run this Nissan L series motor. We already have the bell housing for the RB25, and so it takes, you know, it takes time and money, and to spend that doing that and not doing it on something that already just goes up and runs and works and that everybody wants to see too, you know, is a hard thing to do. But on that note, it is time to go. I'll be back tomorrow. I still haven't decided what video I'm going to do tomorrow, but I'm going to look at that tonight, and then I will be back for the live feed. So I will see you guys all tomorrow.